I am Pablo Hernandez and I am the oboe instructor at Colorado State University. Today I'm going to help you prepare the etudes for Colorado All-State Band 2022 oboe auditions. In this video, we will be discussing two etudes. The first one is from Voxman, Selected Studies, page 13, measure 1 to 16. This etude is originally etude number 8 from the Fairling etude book. The tempo marking is 92 for the quarter note, and it's allegro con foco. This marking helps understand the character of quick pace with energy. When playing etudes, it is important to understand what the etude is trying to showcase from the player. In this case, it's showing technique, difference between slurs and articulated notes, intercalated scales and arpeggios, and phrasing within repeated notes. The main challenge for this etude is the breathing, octave jumps, and alternating fingering, such as the specific fingering for high E at measure 12. Our first example is the first measure where we find repeated notes. This continues to appear in other measures like measure 9. The main issue I find is not to sound static and the lack of not moving forward. If we add a crescendo in the repeated notes to the next downbeat, we have a sense of moving forward, which adds a better phrasing to the section. Another issue that I find is the wide interval jumps. One example is measure 5, where you have an interval of 2 octaves, low E to high E. Check the tuner when you are practicing, but also use a drum to make sure you are listening to the tonic of E minor. In measure 12, make sure you are consistent for the fingering you use for your high E. Consistency is the key to feel confident to play that passage clean. So for that fingering, what I suggest is using the short high E finger with only your left hand. If you have a third octave key, you can use the third octave key. If you have a second, use the second octave key. Make sure you have finger 1, 2, 3, and the A flat note down. That's the short fingering for E. And in combination, that passage with the C sharp, D, and E, it will be easier for you to play. Make sure that you practice that slow in order to achieve a success in that passage. Articulation is another challenge I find in this etude. I recommend you slow it down enough where you can find a very clear distinction between the slurs and the articulated notes. This example is from measure 11. In order to have clean rhythm, observe the note grouping in measures 13 and 14. The slur notes should be seen as a pickup for the downbeat. One last advice I can offer, because this etude is in E minor, make sure to practice with a drum in E. This will help you to have a better sense on how to voice your intervals. The second etude is measure 1 to downbeat of measure 19 from page 23 of the Voxman Selected Studies. It is marked andante, which has a slow walking quality to it. The key is in E flat major. The main challenges of this etude are intonation, breathing, phrasing, and choosing the right fingerings. For intonation, it is helpful to use a drum to make sure your notes are in tune in relation to the E-flat tonic. You can also use the drone to check your wide intervals, as it is in measures 2 and 6. In order to achieve a rounded sound in those two intervals, it's important to lip down and have an O consonant inside your mouth cavity when you go to the low note. It's also very important to map your breathing and mark it in your music for your practice. This will help you feel more comfortable knowing exactly where you are breathing every time you are playing this etude. I suggest that you breathe on measure 6 after the E-flat. You will find this is the more natural phrasing according to this opening. This will give you a comfortable way to get to measure 13, where you have a rest to breathe again. The etude is marked expressivo. If you can add vibrato, this will help you to have direction in your melody, especially on the longer notes. Also, make sure you play the scales with a singing quality to maintain a beautiful expressivo character. In measure 2, the turn indicated on F has a natural sign, suggesting that our E should be playing natural. An easier approach to the turn would be playing the regular F, lifting your index only to play the G, and proceed to play the turn going back to F, E natural, and F again. The second fingering suggestion is the F in measure 17. Be sure you mark in your music which F you are using, and be consistent in your practice to avoid unnecessary mistakes in that measure. The F on the beat 2 that I suggest is the forked. The third and last fingering suggestions is in measure 18. Try both trill keys on the right hand and left hand. Decide on which one feels comfortable to you and stick with it for the measure. Remember, consistency is the key. It's been a pleasure to share some ideas to work on these etudes. Please, feel free to send me any video files if you would like feedback on it, or send me an email if you have any questions. I'll be happy to help. Good luck on your audition, and have fun making music.
Thanks so much for watching this Colorado All-State Prep video. If you have any questions or concerns, please visit music.colostate.edu for more information, including the opportunity to schedule an individual visit with the School of Music, Theater, and Dance. Good luck on your audition.